Welcome to Business Technology Summit. We are so excited to have you here. Hopefully you were able to join us last hour, and here we go with our second round of sessions today. In this session, we are learning if your business needs Power BI Pro or Premium. There we go, getting everything set up. Welcome. This session is being recorded and will be available to attendees after the event. If you have any questions with that, need that link, just let us know. All attendees will be muted. If you have questions, put them in the chat and we'll respond to them either during the session or at the end with the Q&A. We'll make sure to get your questions answered one way or another. If you are having connection problems, please mention something in the chat, or you can email us at support@journeyteam.com. Near the end of each session, we are going to be posting a survey. It will be in the chat. Please fill it out before you leave. These surveys give you an entry into the drawing for a gift card, as well as our main giveaway, which is the Surface 5. I'm sorry, Surface 5. It's a Surface Pro 9, actually. All right. A little bit about JourneyTEAM. Brief background. We are at 130 team members. Actually, we are probably closer to 150 now. Over 350 active customers the past 12 months. We have been around 29 years, 30 years next year. Very excited for some good celebrations next year. Long term, we've got 90% referenceable customers. We are a Microsoft partner, have been gold. We have 4
advanced specialization.
Yes, advanced specializations. All right. Over 1,300 projects completed in the past 5 years. We've won quite a few awards, having been around for this long. A couple of Microsoft Partner of the Year awards, Inner Circle, which gave us some beautiful opportunities to be extra helpful to our clients. Several top workplaces, bar stars, this company used to work for, and they just keep on coming. We just pride ourselves in doing very, very well. A little bit about what we do. We work across most of Microsoft's technologies. ERP, customer relationship management, cloud, content and collaboration. We get to talk more about data and BI today, especially what fits you best in your organization. And we do quite a bit with change management and adoption. Our presenters today, Chase, and we have Preston here as well. And I'm going to let them take it from here.
All right, everyone. So I'm Chase Pollard. I'm going to be teaching most of the class, and then Preston will just jump in as things are needed and give some other comments. But I will be taking most of the class. And I just wanted to go over a quick class schedule. We just did the intro, and we're going to do a little bit of an overview for what we're going to talk about in this class. And the bulk of the class is going to be talking about Power BI plans and features within those plans and the architecture that is consistent in that certain plan and that certain license. And then we're going to just do a couple 5 minutes of what considerations you should take, kind of a recap of the considerations you should take before going into Pro or Premium. And then for the last 10 minutes, we're going to do a Q&A session. Please ask questions in the chat throughout the class. That's what that's for. We wish that this was interactive. We were in person. You could ask questions as I was teaching, but the easiest way is for us to just answer those in the chat. And then we'll try and answer those throughout the class, but we'll take really that 10 minutes to focus on those questions and answer as many as possible. So as questions come up, just take your time and write your question in the chat, and we'll try and answer it. All right. So I just wanted to briefly touch on what is Power BI. And Power BI really is it's a Microsoft tool, and it is a collection of software services that turns your data into coherent, immersive, interactive insights. It really is for connecting to your data sources, being able to visualize it, and then discover what's important. BI Power BI BI stands for business intelligence, and that really allows business intelligence allows individuals and companies to make data-driven decisions. And Power BI helps you with that. It helps you visualize your data in a consumer-friendly way so that you can take those insights and make decisions off it. It's a really, really cool tool. I just wanted to give a quick example. Say you have a couple of Excel spreadsheets. You have product ID, date, zip, units, revenue, and you have a country, and then you have some other information. You can link up on the product ID and create something like this. Power BI will give you this report, and you can then make actionable insights and decisions based off these two tables. And so it's a really, really nice way to be able to drill down and see where are my highs and lows, because looking at a spreadsheet, you can't really tell that. And you can get a really nice report that you can use. So now getting into the bulk of the class, we really have 3 Power BI licenses, and but there's 2 sections of it. There's a Pro license, a Pro section, and there's 1 license in there, and that's the Power BI Pro license. And then there's a Premium section, and then within Premium, there is a Premium per user, and then there's a Premium capacity. They live within the Premium space, but the Premium capacity is the better of the 2 and has the most capabilities, and Premium per user having a little bit less of the capability of Premium capacity, but they're still considered in that Premium space. We're going to start and talk about Power BI Pro architecture. And before I get into this, I want to make sure that you realize that Power BI Pro is not it is the lowest of the licenses that you can get in Power BI Pro or Power BI, but it's not a free version. That we recommend a lot of clients that we work with to work with Power BI Pro because it is really good. So don't think of it as, oh, this is why we're talking about this. Power BI Pro really is a great option, and we're going to talk through the architecture of Power BI Pro and what you can do with it. So let's start off. So like I said in our example, you could have Excel spreadsheets, you could have database in the cloud, you could data from Salesforce, Dynamics, you could have a SQL server, you could also have HR data. These are just examples. Something like ADP. You could have this data that you don't really know what to do with, and you know that you want to make decisions off it, but Power BI Pro allows you to bring those different data sources into what we call data flows. Data flows allow you to bring that data in from your data source and use what's called Power Query, which is an ETL processor. ETL stands for extract, transform, and load. Data flows really are a place where you can bring your data in and get it ready for report consumption. It allows you to bring the data in and get it ready for Power BI to use, really is what they do. And they bring them into a data set. So from the data flows, you can connect a data set. And the data set is really a data model. It's in simple terms, you have these different tables in your data from your sources, and in the data set, you can then connect them to each other so that they are interactive, that you can filter against different tables and they will interact together so that you can gain insights from this source and you can do it all together. That's what a data set is. And then you create your calculations in here. You can do your sum of cells and your change in year over year. That's what the data set is for. From there, the data set then connects to the sales reports. well, all the reports. So you can have a sales report, you can have an executive report. So that is really the Power BI Pro architecture. It sources it, brings it into a data flow. And I didn't mention this, but the data flow really gets a lot less stress on your data source. So it's a really, really good way to source your data into Power BI. So from the data flows and brings it into the data set, you create your model, your relationships between tables, and then you can start having the fun part of making your reports. A couple limitations on this. There is 8 refreshes a day. And I shouldn't have put it on the data flows. I should have put it really in the middle because this is for your data flow refreshes and your data set. Both of them need to refresh. In Power BI Pro, you have 8 per day. So really kind of once during the workday or however you'd like, but you have 8 refreshes a day in the Power BI Pro architecture. Another limitation is that you have 1 gigabyte limit on your data set. That doesn't seem like a lot. Looking at your data source, I have way more than a gig. But you have to remember that as your sources come through your data flows into your data set, there is 10 to 20 times compression on your data. So really, the best way to do this is to test it and see if your if a data set can handle all of your data. I mean, a lot of times it can. Now, just talking about licenses and the cost of Power BI Pro. Power BI Pro license is $10, $9.99 per user per month. Power BI Pro was rated the best BI tool by Gartner, if you're familiar with it. It's been the best for a couple years now, and it's also the cheapest on there. The best next competitor, this costs the 7th of that. So it's really, really reasonable, and it's the best. So we really like here at JourneyTEAM that we're selling and working with the best product, and it's also the cheaper product. So now getting into Power BI Premium architecture, really we're going to start with Premium per user. Remember I said that there's 2 licenses within that space. So first is Premium per user. We can start off with, this is the Pro architecture. Just looking over, reminding ourselves that it brings the data in from the source, brings it into data flows, into the data set, to the reports. It's really, in a simple way, that's how Power BI works. Premium per user allows you to do a lot of things, and we're going to go through those. The first thing is that it can, instead of having data flows individually go to your data set, you can have data flows communicate with each other. And these are called linked entities and computed entities. Really what it is it's data flow communication. This allows for Power BI to bring your data into a source data flow and cache that data, and then use linked and computed entities to make your manipulations on it, to get it ready for your data set. This decreases your refresh times, it decreases your compute time. It really is a powerful tool in the data flows in your premium space. The next thing that it gives you is what's called incremental refresh. You can see this yellow bar that I put here. What incremental refresh will do is it'll go to your data source and it will look at what is new data and what is old data based on a date time, based on time and an ID. It will look at that and say, if you're new, that's what I'm going to bring over. If you're old, I already have it. I already have that data in there. This decreases your refresh times by a lot. And it improves pretty much everything that goes on in the data flow. The next thing is that instead of having 8 refreshes a day, you go to 48 refreshes a day. You can go every 30 minutes. It can go to your data source. And this is really depending on your data source. If you have an Excel file that's not being updated that much, it's not very useful. But if you have a SQL Server or Salesforce or HR data that's being changed every minute, this is really, really useful. So depending on how fresh your data needs to be, this is a really, really good option. And let's talk about next is AI capabilities. Data flows in Power BI with your premium user can give you the capabilities of AI. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do in AI, and what really it gives you is base machine learning models. This can be regressional models. This can give you outcomes, like different outcomes on your data that you input. And then it can also specify out of multiple outcomes what's the right one. So that's a really cool capability within the premium per user space. Another thing that it gives you, instead of that 1 gigabyte limit, it gets pushed up to 100 gigabytes. And remember what I said at the beginning, this is after 10 to 20 times compression of your data. So it really gives you a lot of room and a lot of space to work with the data set of that size. The next thing that it does for you is, when we do that again, it gives you paginated reports in the premium space. And paginated reports really is, think of it as an invoice. If you're trying to work with an invoice data and it has tons of rows and you really just need to be able to see all of it in one report, and the paginated reports gives you that capability, and it also gives you a lot of capabilities in pixel by pixel where you want to put things. It's really customizable, and with that comes a little bit extra skill on how to build those. But paginated reports works really well with things like invoices, and they're also printable. That is, if you're really needing to print reports and distribute those amongst your company, paginated reports really helps with that. And it's a great option. Like, there's a lot of times where Power BI, you have a canvas. You can think of as this dotted blue line as a canvas. That's the only space that you have to work with in a Power BI report. And you can have multiple pages, but you can't really go outside of that blue dotted line. Let's just say that's how much space you have. Paginated reports isn't like that. Paginated reports, you can go as long as you want. You can have different parameters. You can select different things, and it can give you a row by row comparison, and you don't have to scroll. And you can print them. So that's a really good option for companies that need printed reports, or things like invoices is a great example. Another thing it gives you is an XMLA endpoint. And really what that is it's a connection that you can grab from your data set, the big thing in the middle that holds your relationship, your relational model, your data model. And it gives you a connection string. So you can take that connection and you can drop it in, a third-party reporting tool. And we won't judge. We like you to use Power BI, right? But you can use it in other reporting tools. If, like, I'm going to build this in Power BI, I'm going to build my data set, and then you can use it. You can give that connection point and connect to that data set in other reporting tools, or you can even do it in Excel. You can use the data set built in Power BI. It's a really cool capability that it gives you. Power BI Premium per user is a really good option for a lot of our clients as well. The next thing that it gives you is what's called deployment pipelines. Deployment pipelines is where you can have multiple instances and you can get better over time. So I have an example right here. We have a deployment pipeline, right? You can look at that. This is our premium per user architecture per se, and that's our development or our dev environment. From there, and this can point to a different instance. Say you're working with Salesforce or Dynamics data, and you want to do testing or you want to do development within that software, and you want to test different things. So you can point this environment, this development environment, to another instance, not your production instance. And this will make more sense as we go through. You can do the same thing with testing, and you can do the same thing with production. So as you move up the deployment pipeline, you can get better, right? You make sure that the errors that are showing up in your development instance and your test instance, that you catch those before they go to your production. where all of your report consumers will be. This allows for just better maintenance of your data and your reports, so that it can point to different instances. This can even be Excel files, really. I mean, it's anything that you want to develop in, anything that you want to test in on your source and your reporting side. And then once you're ready, you say, we're good to go. We're going to push this to production. And deployment pipelines is a really, really good maintenance tool for that. I really like to think of it as gold panning. I don't know if any of you, I would always watch like Gold Rush on Discovery Channel, right? So I got really into gold panning. And what this allows you to do is you get a bunch of dirt and it looks like, really looks like crap. It looks like nothing. But as you sift through with water, you can start and you get rid of that mud, and then you get rid of, you can start getting rid of those rocks. And it takes a little bit of time, but as you kind of slosh your pan around with water, the impurities are released out back into the water, and you really stay with things that are pure, and that's what they're looking for, is the gold. That's a really great example for deployment pipelines. Is as you move up the deployment pipeline, you're sifting out the mud, you're sifting out the big rocks, and you're really going to get to that gold. And this, so deployment pipelines is a really, really cool capability within the space. So the cost for premium per user is $20 per user per month. And keep in mind, this is still way cheaper than competitors, and it's $10 more a month. One thing that I forgot to mention, and we'll talk about it more as we go through the presentation. As you make reports within Power BI, if you're creating a report with a premium per user, say you're a developer, and you're creating reports with a premium per user license, your report consumers need to also have a premium per user license to consume that report. If you are creating things as a developer with a pro license, your report consumers need a pro license or a premium per user license, right? You don't have to have both. If you have the premium per user license, you have everything included with pro, just more capabilities. We'll talk a little bit more about sharing at the end, but just keep that in mind, that your report consumers need the same license that the developer built the content on.
Same license or higher?
Same license or higher. Yeah. Thanks, Preston. Now I want to talk about premium capacity. This is kind of the end all be all. It's the mega. It's got everything that you would ever need. It's premium per user plus some other capabilities. So you can see this is our premium per user architecture. Talking about premium capacity, there's a couple things that are important to know. The first thing is that 100 gigabyte limit goes to 400 gigabytes. This is huge data. You can really expand with premium capacity. This is enterprise level stuff. You're really gonna need a lot of data to even exceed 400 gigabyte limit. So the next thing is unlimited sharing. What premium capacity allows you to do is premium capacity isn't so much it isn't a per user license. It is a subscription per se. It's a content license. You're backing your data flows, your data sets, and your reports with premium capacity. And so your content is premium capacity, not the user. And that is why it allows you to do unlimited sharing. What unlimited sharing means is you can have users with no license access your content. They no longer need a license. This is really beneficial for big organizations with a lot of report consumers. Maybe you don't have a ton of developers really building the reports and the data sets and the data flows, but you're going to have a ton of report consumers, managers, employees, executive level reports. Unlimited sharing, once you get to a lot of users, this makes a lot of sense because you're not having to buy individual licenses for your users, for your consumers. Keep in mind, though, that your developers still need to have a pro or a premium per user license to develop, but the content is backed by premium capacity. So there's a little bit of a difference there. It's not really a per user license, it's a content license. The next thing that it gives you is multi-geo support. This is for international companies. Say you have employees in Africa and in Switzerland, and then your main hub is really here in America, in the United States. What multi-geo support allows you to do is to set up a computing power, really, in those individual countries that you have employees, so they don't have to get connection down through the ocean and then bring it back into their Power BI report. Without multi-geo support, that is very slow because your engine, your capacity lives here or wherever you're at. But if, say, we're in the United States in the West region, it lives in the West region. You're using the capacity that Power BI has granted you here. But with multi-geo support, it allows you to go across oceans, basically, and it gives them similar speeds that you're having within your capacity here, where your instance is, where your hub is. So talking about subscription costs, so that's really let's go back. That's really the premium capacity architecture. Just a couple more things that it gives you. More gigabyte limit, unlimited sharing, and multi-geo support. And there's a couple other things that are there but aren't as important to reference. Excuse me. Talking about cost of premium capacity, it starts at $5,000 per month per capacity. And like I said, it's really a subscription. It's not a per user license. So we're really talking about if you're all using premium per user licenses, you really need 250 or more users, and that's developers, and that's report consumers. You would need over 250 for this to even start making sense. Because at $20, 20 times 250, that's $5,000, right? So that's the starting cost. And as you need more computing power, and as you need more capacity within your Power BI tenant or your company's Power BI, as you need more capacity and computing power, you can up that capacity, and that will just increase your cost. So we're just going to go over a quick little recap on the Power BI licenses. So you can look at here. There's mobile access in the collaboration or sharing and analytics. There's mobile access, and that's including all three. Publish and share and collaborate reports. I don't really know why. This is straight from Microsoft. Why they're saying that Power BI Premium per capacity doesn't have publishing reports and sharing. I think they're saying because it's a limited sharing, you don't really collaborate on. I don't know. It really is there. That's how all report consumers consume it. So I don't know why they don't have that there. Paginated reports like we talked about, like the invoicing example, that's only included in Power BI Premium, Power BI Premium per capacity. And then consume content without a per user license, that's only premium capacity. And then there's on-premises reporting with Power BI Reporting Server, which is a premium per capacity attribute, I guess you could say. The next thing is data prep, modeling, visualization. I'm not going to go through all of these, but the important ones are those refresh rates. Power BI Pro gives you 8 per day, and then the premium license and premium per capacity gives you 48 a day. That's a lot of refreshes a day, and you can make sure that your data is up to date. They can all connect to over 100 data sources, and that gives you a lot of capabilities. You can create reports and visualizations with Power BI Desktop. You can do You can do AI visuals in all three, but you can only do advanced AI, regressional models. If you're into data science, predictive models, that's only in the premium space. And like I said, XML endpoint. And then the big one is that data flows, direct query, linked and compute entities. You have enhanced compute power within your data flows. Data flows get enhanced a lot from pro to premium. And then there's this last thing, data mart creation. That's a preview feature within Power BI. So we're not going to talk a lot about that, but it's going to be cool once it goes out to general consumption. So kind of getting up towards the end of kind of this class, and what we really need to talk about, what is your end goal? And that really is deciding whether to go with pro or premium. Depends on what your end product, your end goal would be. We're just going to talk about some of those considerations. I have a funny video. My wife and I dressed up as Alice and the Mad Hatter, so I thought that it'd be prudent to have this video. So really what that quote was, that video, it's really cheesy, I know. But Alice says, would you tell me please which way I should go to the Cheshire Cat? The Cheshire Cat says, well, that really depends a good deal on where you want to get to. And Alice says, well, I don't really care. I don't really care. And the Cheshire Cat responds and says, it doesn't really matter which way you go. So as consultants here at JourneyTEAM, we ask you and plead with you, please don't be like Alice. Let's figure out where we want to go. Let's figure out where we want your end goal to be. Because that's really going to determine where your considerations take you. That's really where the considerations are going to make sense, and figuring out what license and what architecture you will need going in as you're starting with Power BI, or even if you have Power BI and you want to change. So a couple things to keep in mind for considerations is how many users will need Power BI access. And there's really three roles. There's admins, developers, and report consumers, which are viewers. And then think of it on like a per user plan. You're going to need licenses for every single one of those people on pro licenses and premium per user licenses, or PPUs. You're going to need to buy a license for every single one of an admin, a developer, a report consumer, or a viewer. Every single one of those roles, you could say a Power BI role, is going to need a license. Now, on the premium capacity plan, what we talked about is users the consumers, or the viewers of the reports, with premium capacity plan do not need a license, and they can consume content without a license. And like I said before, this really becomes cost effective when you have over 500 users using pro features, or really 250 users needing premium features. So if you have over 250 consumers and developers using Power BI, and your cost is going up monthly because you're adding new people, this becomes really cost effective, because then you switch over to a premium capacity plan at $5,000 a month starting. And then as you ramp up, as you get more data, as you have more data sets and more reports, and your capacity just builds and builds and builds, there's a potential that you need to up your capacity, and you can do that with premium capacity. Like I said, it's kind of the mega, it's kind of the end all be all. It has everything that you ever need. The next thing is, how big is your data? Let's just do a recap. Pro, on your data set, on your data size, really, your data set is 1 gigabyte. This allows you, like I said, this is 10 to 20 times compression. So if you had, 20 gigabytes of data coming in through your sourcing, it could be 1 gigabyte in your data set. There's a lot of compression that goes into that. So keep that in mind. The next one is the PPU, or the premium per user. And your data set size in here is 100 gigabytes. You need like 2,000 gigabytes to even get over this data set size. And then premium capacity, that gives you 400 gigabytes. This, like I said, this is enterprise level data. A lot of stuff coming through. So take that into consideration as well as you're looking at your data set sizes. If you don't know, start with a pro license and test it. See if your data is going to overrun that 1 gigabyte limit. But keep in mind, as you're bringing your data into a data flow, there's a lot of things that you can filter out that you don't need. There's columns that you don't need. There's rows that don't make sense. Really, the data flow is to bring your data into a data set ready for report consumption. And then you can make your relationships to build beautiful Power BI reports. The next thing is data governance, deployment, business processes. And I'm just going to go through these questions, but if you answer yes to any of them on the below questions, you are really going to want to consider a premium per user license or a premium capacity. So the first one is, do you need deployment pipelines? That's the gold panning example. If you have multiple instances and you want to do development and testing before you push it out to production, that is when a deployment pipeline really becomes a good option. So that as you move from workspace to workspace and instance to instance, you can get rid of the errors that are popping up in your dev and test environments. And then when you push to production, you know that you're going to end up with that gold, right? You're going to get rid of the rocks, rid of the mud, and you're going to that way. There's also no report interruptions as you're pushing things to production. We've had experiences where that hasn't happened, and we're using one workspace, and then a developer from a client changes something in the data source, and then everything breaks, and we have to go add that column and do all of our manipulations and make sure that it's flowing through correctly. So deployment pipelines, if you're needing a data maintenance or data governance, deployment pipelines is a really great option. Do you have international employees and need multi-geo support? If you do, premium capacity is the way to go, because your report consumers and your developers in other countries where your data hub is, your capacity is located, those consumers and developers outside of that area is going to be really slow. It's going to be not a great experience for them and the company as a whole. AI capabilities. Like I said, Power BI Premium gives you regressional analysis. It can tell you out of all of these attributes, what is the outcome? Like it is, you can think of it as you're trying to win a lead, a sales lead. And you can look at all these different attributes, what time it came in, who was the salesperson, what time of day it was, what the weather was, what they're looking for. They can take all of those individual inputs and then spit out an output like, this is a good lead, you should pursue this, or this isn't a good lead, don't waste your time. And so that's really the AI capabilities, the machine learning. That's a premium feature. Do you need paginated reports? Paginated reports, like I said, is the invoicing example. It can take you down and it can give you really, really customizable reports and give you a length of reports that and a bigger canvas that Power BI reports don't give you. So paginated reports allows you to do that. And it gives you printable reports. You can print Power BI reports. Doesn't look very good. Paginated reports is a better option for printing and distributing reports. But keep in mind that that's a really good option. But keep in mind that you can also give those users who are needing printable reports, they can just log in through an app and see the report and see the things that they need. So keep that in mind. If you're printing reports, just think, do I actually need this to be printed, or would it be more useful for somebody to get on a tablet or a computer and see this report? So keep that in mind with paginated reports. But it's a great option for if you do need it. Do you need more than 8 refreshes a day? Does your data freshness need to be more than eight times a day? Keep in mind that the premium space is 48 times a day, so every 30 minutes if your data source allows it. And then is your data set size? We already talked about this, but it's bigger than a gigabyte. And that might require some testing on your end to see. But if any of those questions that we went through is a yes, then you might want to consider a premium per user license or premium capacity. We're going to jump into a Q&A session. We have about 20 minutes to do so. And if are there any questions that have come in that we
We've
can
had
answer?
some. Preston, do you want
Yeah, do you
to
want to answer those?
mention them so we can talk about them a little bit more?
I think we mostly answered them in the chat, but the 2 questions that were asked were if the eight refreshes per day is per license or per data flow. The answer is more like it's not per license. If you have more licenses, you don't get more refreshes. It's per data set and per data flow.
Yeah.
And the other question was, does the 8 count manual? Does the 8 refreshes per day for a pro license count manual refreshes? And theoretically, yes, it should. At times we've seen it where it doesn't, but in practice, that yeah, it should count it. But when you purchase premium capacity, meaning that 5K or above per month, you can really refresh as often as you want, since you're in charge of your own server at that point.
Yeah.
So.
Good. Right.
What other questions? We've got 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so.
Yeah.
So if you've got questions about Power BI, now's a great time to use it to get some extra info from us.
Yeah, and if you don't have questions even on Power BI Pro or Premium, you have other questions, let's try and stick within the Power BI Pro or Premium. But if you have other questions that you're interested in, please ask one. We'll definitely give you an answer.
We've got a good question from Jason.
Go for it.
Have you seen good use cases for having pro and premium in a tenant?
Good question. Sure. Yes, absolutely. In fact, one of our clients has a Salesforce team, a sales team that is a force to be reckoned with. But, they have a sales team that needs to be able to see when leads are coming in, and they use Power BI to kind of see how many leads have come in a day. They've kind of got pretty regular updates to those data. They give their sales team a premium per user license because they need additional freshness of data, and the rest of the business is just getting a pro license. They don't necessarily have that additional need for the freshness of data, and therefore the speed doesn't, or the additional cost isn't warranted for that group.
Yeah.
Good question.
That's a good question.
More often than not, a company will choose to use one or the other, but there are situations where if you're trying to save money, it is a good use case to bring them together.
Yeah. And keep in mind, as that sales team that Preston was talking about is using the premium per user licenses, the people only with a premium per user license can view that content that's being refreshed. That's really important. Pro users, if they're like, hey, I want to see that sales data, that sales report that you're using, they won't be able to see it unless they're on a premium per user. But that one is more a sales team instance, and then everybody else doesn't need that freshness of data.
Right.
So hopefully that answers your question.
What else?
Yeah. Anything else?
As you were talking, I was wondering, back when you were talking about data prep, modeling, visualization, you mentioned updates coming next year. Do we have any kind of a timeline on that?
So are you talking about data marts?
Yeah.
Data marts, there isn't a timeline of when they're coming out, at least to my knowledge. It's what's called a preview feature, and Power BI is that. This is my favorite thing about Power BI. Power BI is changing like daily. Like there's a monthly report of everything that is changing in Power BI. It's like my favorite thing. Like I get an email of the blog change, of a blog update, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like Power BI is always making improvements. Data marts, I think, were released in July or June, sometime in the summer they were released. And data marts, is an alternative option to data flows, but gives you, it's going to be really cool, honestly. And we don't have to get into it. If you have other questions, we can talk about it. But really, it's kind of a one-stop shop for everything. You can do your data transformations. You can set up your own kind of Power BI SQL server, but then you can also build reports in it. It's Power BI really only works well for Windows users, so this is a really good option for Mac users as well.
Or at least it will become a really good option.
It will become, yes, exactly. So like we said, it's a preview feature. Do you have anything else on data marts?
Yeah, I think from a data marts perspective, when they first rolled out, we saw the announcement, we went and looked at it, we're like, this is going to be really cool.
Yeah.
It's not quite there yet, at least it wasn't when we were playing with it. They continue to add features as it moves closer to GA or general availability. But it is Microsoft's answer to Mac users building Power BI reports.
Yeah.
They've said for years that they were going to build an in the browser version of the desktop app, and the way they've done that is through the use of through data marts.
Yeah, if you have questions on like developing, Preston just mentioned the desktop app. That's where you build and develop reports. So your reports live up in the Power BI service online in the cloud, and you have an instance there where that's where people will go to consume. But as a developer, you can connect to those data flows that live up in the cloud, and then you connect down into the desktop, and that's where you build your data model. That's where you create your calculations. That's where you build the report, and then you publish it up into the cloud of your instance in Power BI service, and that's where people can consume it. So just if there were any questions on that, I didn't mention that in the presentation.
A quick reminder, in the chat, we've got the link to the survey. That's really helpful for us to know how well we did today, how we can improve, and how we can better meet your needs. There's a link also if you haven't gotten other sessions for later on today or tomorrow. Hopefully that's helpful for you. Yeah. Any other questions?
If there's no other questions, I'll move on to my last slide. So, any other questions? All right, I'll do it. So the last thing is just contact us. If you have questions, there is no organization too big or too small that we won't work with. Like even if it isn't a good fit, we'll tell you that. Like we're very honest, and we'll say Power BI is a good fit for you, or Power BI isn't. We just did a class on what Power BI is good for and what it's not good for. And that will be available for you to watch. But if you have questions, please call. Like we will give you answers on what you need to do. And if it's not a good solution for your company or for you individually, we'll be honest and say, no, there's probably a better tool out there for you. Power BI can do a lot, but there are things that you can't. So please contact us on that. You can see that we have JourneyTEAM.com as our website. You can go to that and you can contact us through there, or you can just call one of these lines. You can email us. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, on YouTube. There's a lot of options. The last thing I want to talk about is what we call JTU, or JourneyTEAM University. JourneyTEAM University is it's getting better by the day. This is a place where if you want to learn skills in Power BI, and you also want maybe a little bit of additional help, you can go to universityofjourneyteam.com and you can sign up for classes that we've created here at JourneyTEAM on our BI team. And you can go in and we have like fundamentals of Power BI. We have a DAX, fundamentals of DAX, which DAX is the language that we use to create calculations, or what we call DAX measures. It can get complex, and so there's a really good class for that on understanding how DAX works. There is also a fundamentals of visualizations. If you're a visualization, you're like, I just don't really know where to go from here. you can go in and do a fundamentals of visualization class. And then there's also a data modeling class. If you're like, I don't really know how to make those relationships, or I don't know how to create a good data model, then there's a class in there as well. And we're getting to the point where we're releasing intermediate and advanced courses as well. So you can go in there and you can sign up for some classes, and then you can also ask us questions. The good thing about JT or the university is it gives you the data, it gives you the files that you need to go in and start taking those courses, and it's interactive. You go through the course with a consultant, you watch videos, and they challenge you to do certain things. And so that's a really good option that we'd love for you to jump in and take. But at any rate, contact us if you have questions. And if you're thinking you need a Power BI project or a data engineering project or any project within JourneyTEAM, we do most things in the Microsoft stack. If you need help on a project that you want, like help on an integration or reporting, and you just don't want to do it yourself, we will gladly do it for you. So, yeah, anything else you want to ask, Preston?
I think it's great. Thanks for coming. We're glad you were all here, and have a great rest of your Wednesday.
Yeah.
Thanks,
We'll see you in
everybody.
other classes.
Thank you.